Okay, welcome back. Audible, visible now. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Okay. Good evening. We'll wait for 1 to 2 minutes for everybody to join in. Still, people are joining in. Shushmita, you're feeling better now? You're live with me now? Shamishta, good evening. Chalo, great. Like this, can you see me now? Last week I told you how to read NCRT. Okay, I'll tell you how to read NCRT. No issue. How to read NCRT. अच्छा ठीक. Well, Shushmita, as you wish. If you are well, you should be here. If you aren't, you have the recording. Okay. Hardeep has made a popular request that how to read the NCRT. See, before I go forward, very simply, see, there is a difference between learning something and reading something. Hardeep, now tell me one thing. Harry Potter fan, Twilight fan, read anything in fiction? Not DC. The problem is not movies, but any form of literature which you read. No. चलो कोई बात नहीं. I'll still presume you as a Harry Potter fan. Okay. Now, when you read fiction, for example, or when you watch a movie, simple. Do you learn the movie? Or anybody who's a Harry Potter fan, did you learn the book? That, okay, I have to learn the name of Harry Potter and the further characters, this, that, planet, I'm gonna. No. Right? But somehow you still remember it. Somehow, people remember the whole Game of Thrones concept, how there are different things, how this, that, everything they are able to remember. If you're if you're in the DC universe, you know all of the backstories, everything. Marvel universe, you know everybody's understanding how they are, Infinity War, this, that, everything. See, the difference is that when you read a book which is fiction, or when you read or watch a movie, you watch it with interest. You actively take interest in it. However, you still don't learn it, but you automatically remember it. Now, what I want you to do is that you have to learn the PPTs in the sense that you have to actively read, revise, then again read and learn, which is repetition. On the other hand, when you are talking about an NCERT, what I want from you vis-a-vis an NCERT is that very simply, I want you to only read it, but with interest. I only wanted to do it once. If you have, for example, a chapter on Vedic period, read it, knowing that you have to learn something from the PPT. Go through it once. If there's something which you see is basically beyond the class, which most probably it won't be, or beyond the PPT, just highlight it. And your work is done. If you do it with interest, once one reading will actually give you the gist of whatever we've been doing. Basically, I want you to read the NCERT once as a form of revision. But doing it from a different source will allow you to have a better understanding. That is it. The purpose is PPT should be learnt, NCERT should be read as a form of revision. The same will be true for even R.S. Sharma. R.S. Sharma, I am not asking you to learn it, but read it like a storybook and just keep a little bit of interest in what you are doing, and their work is done. Make sense? Is this making sense? That I'm not asking you to learn, that you sit with the NCERT, learn it, underline. People make their NCERTs into Christmas trees. No. Simple point. Learn the PPT, something unique you find in the NCERT, highlight it, so that next time you just have to see the highlighted part if necessary. Remember, if you take interest in anything, you will remember it. You will actually remember it. This is the biggest thing which students lack in history, for example, in geography, for example, in economics, wherein they don't take interest, specifically geography and history. Once you try to understand, okay, this is the how the earth works, this is how the wind works, this is how our surroundings work, okay, this is how I am what I am today, this is how my society works, okay, this is how varna system works, this is how these religions came about, this is how my culture is, then it will start to make sense to you quite a lot. If I read NCRT PPT, art and culture can't run away from Nitin Singhania. We'll talk about that when we'll reach there, because NCRT is not enough for art and culture. We'll talk about that. Okay, so we have to discuss Digambar Shwetambar. Okay, you can read R.S. Sharma, but R.S. Sharma, then again, keep it simple. Don't complicate it too much. Straightforward, simple, straightforward. Okay, now we've discussed Jainism, we've discussed Mahavira, we've also discussed the core philosophy, and we've also discussed the concepts and the different ideas. Are we clear with regards to all of this? Yes, no? Yes, okay, very good. Now, Jainism also has two schools or subsects. One is called Digambar and the other one is called Shwetambar. Now, very simple to understand. See, it is believed that when the Jains were there in the Magad sector in North India, there was a major famine which happened, or a major drought spell in this sector. And in order for Jainism to survive, one set of the Jain monks went to South India and one set remained in North India. The ones which went to South India were the Digambars, and the one who remained back in North are the Shwetambars. So it's basically the migration concept. The subsects develop because of the migration of one set to south where Digambar develops. Now, the name itself will automatically give you a clue that what are their characteristics. See, core Jain philosophy is the same, but there's a difference in which they practice or how they practice. Digambars are nude or what are called sky clad. See, dig means nothing. Amber, that the sky is protecting or is covering my body. Shwet means cloth, and cloth is covering my body. So very simply, Digambar monks are nude till today, and Shwetambar wear white cloth. Wear white cloth, and the point is, both agree that Mahavira did not wear clothes. Both agree that the early Jain philosophy was based on not wearing clothes. However, Shwetambar believed that this philosophy is more or less outdated, obsolete. We should change. And Digambar said that we need to stay with what Mahavira said. Now, very simply, tell me in which sect a female cannot become a monk. It's a very straightforward concept. Yes. Very simply, no female monks. Here both male and female monks are there. But if you believe that Jainism is a little bit forward when it comes to women, Jainism still believes, and till today it is believed within Jain philosophy, that in order to get salvation, a woman needs to first die and reincarnate as a man to then get salvation. So understand one thing very, very clearly: Buddhism and Jainism are not that progressive when it comes to women. Because, firstly, Buddha only allowed women to enter the Sangha when his aunt and his mother insisted quite a lot. And more than that, he again argued that salvation is not complete as a woman. Same point of time, Jainism argues that you cannot get salvation as a woman. You have to become a man first to get salvation. So don't think that they're radically revolutionized or very different in that sense. But the main difference between Digambar and Shwetambar is this only: that one is nude, sky-clad, the other one wear cloth. Straightforward, standard concept, which is that only difference is in daily practice. Digambar, Shwetambar, particularly in clothing. Both traditions believe that Mahavira and his early disciples were nude and naked. However, Digambars follow this very, very strictly. Thereafter, according to a monk, must renounce all possessions, including clothes. What they have are only two things: a small broom to sweep where they sit, and a small water guard, which is a kamandu for toilet hygiene. Shwetambars, however, argue that this concept is obsolete, so they wear white robes. Nudity was a practice which has fallen into abstinence, is not necessary, it's unnecessary, and therefore, for basic disciples, it takes only anuvratas, which are much diluted versions of the mahavratas, which are there for the people itself. So in a way, again, Shwetambar tries to make Jainism relevant in changing times. In changing times, white robes means white, what we call as clothes. Now we have discussed the two basic subsects. Then there are two councils also, not more than that. First Jain Council, Patliputra, 12 Angas, which is basically 12 books were written. And thereafter, at the second Buddhist council, which is at Vallabhi in 5th century CE, 12 sub-books were written. Other than that, nothing very dramatic, in the sense that they are not like the Buddhists where they're splitting up quite a lot. But what matters to us is now sub-schools or subsects. Now, please pay attention to this. We have divided Jainism into two: Shvetambara and Digambara. Now they are further subdivided. Digambars are divided into three, which is that you have Moolasang, Bispanti, Therapanti, Taranpanti. Bispanti, Mool Sang, Bispanti, Taranpanti, and Therapanti. Out of this is the original school, and these are the offshoots, as it says here: modern community, original community. But the Shwetambars have an interesting division. When we talk about the Shwetambars, you have three basics: Terapanthi, Sthanak Vasi, and Murti Pujaks. Now, why is this interesting? Because You can see Therapanthi is actually repeating itself. This Therapanthi and this Therapanthi, the only difference is, what would be the difference between a Shwetambar Therapanthi and a Digambar Therapanthi? Very good, Neil, very good. Clothes. This Therapanthi wears clothes, this one does not wear clothes. Other than that, the name itself will give you a lot of understanding. Murti Pujaks are the ones who actually do idol worship of the different, what we call as Tirthankars, and Sthanakvasis are the ones who actually are the ones who worship monks. They worship idols. So if you look at it, see, the Sthanakvasis believe in praying to saints rather than in a temple. They wear a muhapatti on their mouth, and that is why they are called Sthanakvasi. Murti Pujaks, they worship idols of the Tirthankaras, but also not wear a muhapatti. Therapanthi are actually like the Sthanakvasi itself. They pray to saints, but they wear a muhapatti but also not wear clothes. So I'll give you a Venn diagram and it will actually give you a better understanding very simply. See, you have first clothes, mask, idols. Rather, let's not make it like this. You have clothes, mask, idols, no clothes, and saints. So you see like this. Sthanakvasi, saints, mask, clothes. Sthanakvasi. Thereafter, you have Murti Pujaks, saints, clothes, but no mass. Murti Pujaks. Thereafter, you have masks. Oh, I'm sorry. This should be also here. Murti Pujaks is not saints. Oh. Sorry. That should be Murti, idol. 1 second. That should Murti Pujaks. Murti means clothes. Yes. Mask, clothes, saints, Thanak, Vasi, idols, clothes, Murti Pujaks. Thereafter, no clothes is Mool Panthi. They are also the ones who go for idols. Further, you have very interesting combination, and this is where we have to pay attention. There is two types of Therapanthi. Clothes plus mask plus saints. This is very simply Therapanthi Shwetambar, and there would be one which would be no clothes, masks, which is Therapanthi Digambar. Taranpanthi and Bispanthi. Is it making sense to you? That Murti Pujaks are the ones who do Murti Puja, which is idols plus clothes, Shwetambar. Then you have Sthanakvasi, who are basically mask plus clothes plus saints. Then you have Therapanthi, who are mask, clothes, and saints. And one Therapanthi is no clothes and mask, which is Digambar. Everything else is the concept of Moolpanthi, Bispanthi, Taranpanthi. Is this making sense? If no, I can make it in a different way. Out of, see, what is the difference between Thanakvasi, Therapanthi? That is good. This can be both. They can be both Shwetambar and Digambar. That is the difference. That is the difference between a Therapanthi and a Sthanakvasi. It's not difficult. See, that firstly, why did I say Jainism? You have to learn. There are not a lot of words to learn. Bis, Taran, Tera, Mool. That is not an issue. Tell me first. Is the words clear first? Taran, Bis, Tera, Mool. That is okay. Then you have Murti Pujaks, which is very, very straightforward. When Murti Pujak, Murti ki puja, therefore idol. Sthanakvasi, the ones who believe in the people who are on the ground, Sthanakvasi. And then Terapanthi is repeating twice. Terapanthi is repeating twice. So if you didn't, if this did not make sense, I'll make it in a different way. Very simply, Venn diagrams will make sense to you. You have, for example, clothes, you have masks, then you have idols, and you have saints. Right? Now you see. Very simple, very simple. Mask plus idol plus clothes. Which is this area? Who wear masks, idols, and clothes? Very good. This is very, very good. These are the Murti Pujaks. Idol, mask, clothes. Now there is one which is saint, masks, which is saints plus clothes, but no masks, which is this one. Saints plus clothes is what? Saints plus clothes is Sthanakvasi and Terapanthi. Very good. But this is Terapanthi Shwet Ambar. Very good. Now there is a school which only believes in mask and saints, but no clothes. This is Terapanthi Digambar. Very good. So now the main subsects are done. Thereafter, last but not the least, is no clothes, but where the concept of masks are there. So this one, this area, this would be Mool Sangh, Taranpanthi, and Bispanthi. Now, does it make sense? Murti Pujak should be common area between what? Common area between idol, clothes, and mass. So that is this area only, right? Okay, I get your point. This should not be there. This is totally correct. This is totally correct. There's no saints in it. Murti Pujaks represent idol plus mask, these two, and plus clothes. So saints are not there. It is correct. Don't confuse. If you are confused, don't confuse me also. I can't now make it into a CSAT question. This is the easiest I can do for you. Murti Pujaks, thereafter Therapanthi, Sthanakvasi, Moolpanthi, Bispanthi, Taranpanthi. No, non-cloth is also marked. Where am I marking non-clothes? Yes, see, don't complicate it. Simple point. Murti Pujaks is this 1, 2, and 3. These three together, which is this area. Other than that, this is saint plus mask. This is saint plus clothes. That's it. So very simple. Cloth plus saint plus mask. Cloth plus saint plus mask. But which is the one which is cloth plus saint plus mask? अरे यार देखो यार, you are now actually confusing yourself and then asking me to change according to your confusion. Very simply, these are the ones who don't wear clothes but wear masks. These are the ones who worship to saints, also wear clothes and also wear mupatti. These two are the ones who this is the one which is idol plus muhapatti and clothes. So mask is only common to this. That is it. So no, this is again you are confusing me. This is the mask. This is no mask. It's a very simple thing, and this becomes mask. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Forget what I made. Don't even worry about it. Because what you're doing is that in your comments, you're randomly pushing things because they don't exist. You are sending me combinations which don't exist. So let's keep it simple. Forget I made all of that. Very simply, is this clear? Sthanakvasi, saint plus mask plus clothes. Murti pujaks, no mask, only idols. Thereafter, clothes, obviously. Therapanthi can be two, mask plus saint with clothes, without clothes. And Digambas are without clothes. Can we now keep it here? Because randomly pushing random things to me is not going to work. Yes, no, can we move on? Because this is not even the time we should give to this topic. Okay. Done. Now, why did I do this? I did it for a very simple reason. Before I move to the next module, very simply, in the examination, when they'll ask you which of the following is a Jain, which of the following is a Buddhist, they will always mix one Jain or one Buddhist with each other. So what I want you to do is just remember for the purpose of the examination, just remember bis taran tera moola sthanakavasi, and you have Murti Pujaks. Can you do this? Because nobody is giving you a CSAT question in which they will give you combinations. Will you be able to identify the Jain sects from within the Buddhist texts or sects? Yes? Can I move on? Very good. Okay. So, with this, very simply, Jainism did spread, but its spread, as I said, was curtailed by the fact that it was extremely difficult to follow. Mahavira, when he actually was what we call as practicing Jainism, had 11 disciples, which are called the Ganadharas or heads of schools. Basically, had 12 to 13, very important. Basically, 11 core Ganadharas. So Mahavira was there and 11 Ganadharas were there. Now, the point is that by the time actually Mahavira died, only one Ganadhara was left, which is Arya Sudharma, and he is called the first Thera. Thera means that he is the one who succeeded Mahavira, but was not a Tirthankar. Please understand this. He succeeded Mahavira, but was not a Tirthankar. That is why he's called a Thera, the chief preceptor, the one who takes it forward. He died 20 years after Mahavira, and once he dies, he is succeeded by two of his Theras, which is Bhadrabahu and Sambhuta Vijaya. According to different traditions, Udayan was a devout Jain. We also know that Chandragupta Maurya converted to Jainism in the later period. When we are going to discuss Alexander, during Alexander's period also, we know that Jains were present in that sector, and Mathura and Ujjain were very important centers of Jainism. Now, before I start Mauryas, I want to do a basic overview of what we've done till this point. We are entering module number 4. So I want to just give you a basic overview of what we've done till this point. We started with Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. We've done Indus Valley Civilization. We've done early Vedic, later Vedic, and we've done Mahajanpada, the 6th century BC. Within 6th century BC, we were able to understand the concept of the trade, the Magadha period, and the political history. One thing which was left was religious history. Within religious history, we've discussed Ajivikism, Buddhism, Jainism. Within Buddhism, we have to discuss Buddhism, Theravada, the concept of Mahayana, Hinayana, and Vajrayana. Thereafter, Jainism, Digambar, Shwetambar, Tera, Tharan, Bis, Mool, the Sthanakvasi, and Murti Pujaks. Are we actually clear with whatever I said right now? What came out of my mouth in the past 1 minute, did it actually make sense? Yes? Okay. There's no concept. No, there's no concept of Bodhi. There is no Bodhisattva concept here like Buddha. No, nothing like that. Nothing. It's not as complicated like that. Okay. Whatever I said is what you actually have to also understand. Yes, this is also what you missed, Shushmita. So basic point is the Buddhist part you did not do. You can just do it through the recording. So very simple point is we have finally reached 6th century BC, full done. I told you sponge-marked coins, trade, new religions, and Bhagat. Now I need to take the story forward, and for that we need to discuss three very important concepts: Alexander, his invasion, and then rise of Mauryas. Can we do that? You just missed Buddhism, Shushmita. Yes? So everybody is on board, everybody is ready, no issues. You want 1 minute breather, you take a breather. The only theme which is totally religious is now done. This is the odd one out in that regard, and I have done it with you. So this is done. So I can now, yes. Sthanakvasi, as I said, Vivek still stuck there somehow. Can anybody tell Vivek who's a Sthanakvasi? I'll push it on the screen itself. Who's a Sthanakvasi? Ankit, not a monk. You tell me what are the characteristics of a Sthanakvasi? Okay, Hardeep has answered your question. Avani has answered your question. I'm pushing that also. Avani. Saint with rain's cloth mask. So Sumit has also answered your question. Samhita has also answered your question. Sumit has also answered your question. Abhijit has also answered the question. Vishal has been very kind to answer your question. Varsha has also answered your question. I hope, Vivek, now your thirst for the the Stanakvasi is done. Hardeep, Sridhiri Devi, now done. Can I move on, please? Okay. Okay. Now, for module number 4, as always, the key is that R.S. Sharma 16, 18, 19, 3 chapters, and NCRT 6th class, Ashoka, the emperor who gave up war, is relevant for you generally. Now, now you need a little bit of imagination. Can you imagine with me? Because I have to basically show you a certain process which is called Alexander and Alexander's invasion. I need your active imagination of world geography. Everybody's ready? Because I will go on making certain rough maps, and I believe you just need to follow with me on where we are. Okay, very good, perfect. Okay, so everybody is extremely ready. Very good. Okay. When I'm done with this, I'll give you a small break also. So presume that this is what I'm doing with you is the concept of Alexander's invasion. This is the Indus River, right? And the person who is ruling on this side, which is the eastern sector of the Indus River, is a person called Dhana Nanda. And the Magad dynasty is actually here. Let's even remove the name of Magad, Dhanananda. And basically, this is the Magad dynasty. The Magad dynasty is ruling the area next to the Indus River. Any issue here, anyone? No, very good. Now, we have to go a little bit further to the west. Now, this is modern day Greece, also called Macedonia. We have Iraq, Iran, and we have the West Asian sector here. West Asian sector here. You have Saudi Arabia here. Now, there was, in the period we are talking about, which is close to 350 to 327 BCE, the period we are basically talking about, there was an empire which used to rule this sector, and this sector was ruled from Iran, and it was called the Achaemenid dynasty or empire. Achaemenid dynasty or empire. And the ruler who found this was Darius I. He used to rule from this area, and you would have heard about this in different ways. This is called a Persian dynasty. Their culture is Iranian Persian language, and they rule from modern day Greece to Saudi Arabia, to Iraq, to Iran, and till the Indus, they have a control. It's a very big empire, very, very big empire. Just to give you a direct reference of this, this area which you see as the brown part, this color, is basically the Achaemenid Empire. From the Indus River till Iran, till Iraq, till Turkey, till modern day, what we call as Macedonia, and even parts of Egypt and certain parts of Saudi Arabia. This is called the Achaemenid Empire. Anybody has visualization issues in this? That on this side you have the Magad dynasty, and on the other side you have the Achaemenian Empire with regards to this large, very big Persian. I really don't care who is Darius I. I really don't care what is his basic features. He is just a backstory, a footnote in my story itself. This is where my story starts. I am now coming back to the political. Anybody has an issue? Yes, Israel, Palestine, everywhere. Does not really matter to me. There's no Israel at this point of time. The point is, West Asia is ruled by a very big dynasty called the Achaemenid dynasty, which also rules over an area called Macedonia. Is this clear? Come on. Yes? Very good. Now, Darius is the name of the ruler. Darius I is the one who founded this dynasty. Now, nothing changes. The Indus is still going like this. Indus. And you have the Magad dynasty here. But things start to change in the West Asian sector, because in Macedonia rises a person called Alexander the Third, who's also the son of Philip, and he does not like the way his area is dominated by the Persians or the Achaemenid dynasty. The person who rules Achaemenid dynasty is Darius III. And now what happens is, from 327 BCE onwards, Alexander now starts to move and capture parts of the Achaemenid dynasty. Very simply, Alexander challenges and defeats Darius III to usurp the Achaemenid dynasty. And this is basically Alexander now becoming worthy of what he's sometimes called. For me, he isn't Alexander the Great, and very simply Sikandar, Alexander, whatever you want to call him. He is now going to move through this sector as represented in this map. As you see, Alexander's empire, as it starts to expand into the areas, he has certain very important, very important battles. One is called the Battle of Issus, and the other one is called the Battle of Gugemala. The two battles in which Darius III is defeated, and very simply he starts to expand his empire, and now is in a way moving towards the Indus. Again, for me, the backstory of Alexander really doesn't matter. The point is that Alexander is moving towards the Indus. So from a period in which where the Achaemenid dynasty used to rule, and that the Magad dynasty was on the Indus Valley or the Indus sector itself, the simple point is, now Alexander the Third is expanding at the cost of the Achaemenian empire. Are we clear with regards to this? Yes? Now comes the interesting part. I'll give you a flow chart of this in a textual form also, so don't have to worry. Now comes the interesting part. As it is, by his movement, he automatically has now come to the Indus River. So you have Satluj, Jhelum, and we have Dhanananda, who's ruling over Magad dynasty. And very simply, his natural progression towards the Achaemenian Empire has brought Alexander on the banks of the river, river Indus. Now comes the interesting and dramatic part. Now, when he reaches the banks of the Indus River, Alexander wanted to enter into India. And he will be faced by two very important rulers, one called Ambhi and the other one called Porus, or Puru as you want to call him. Now, Ambhi does not give a challenge, who was ruling over Takshila. He doesn't challenge Alexander, and rather he says that you take my area, I will be happy to be part of the Alexander empire. So Ambhi does not give any form of steep resistance or any form of resistance generally. On the other hand, when it becomes Alexander versus Porus in what is called the most important battle to protect India, Porus gives stiff resistance. And a small regional dynasty where we don't know where the exact boundaries are, it takes Alexander 2 to 3 months to break through the defenses of Porus, and Porus will eventually be defeated in what is called the Battle of Hedepetus, which is nothing but the name of Jhelum in Greek language, and Porus will be defeated. However, Alexander will be so impressed by the valor of Porus that he will say that I don't want to kill you. I will rather give you your territory back and you become a part of Alexander's empire. And Porus will actually say okay. Now, the last line of defense in order to enter into India is a river called Beas. The river called Beas. Now, standing on the Beas river, Alexander now knows that he has to cross the Beas river in order to now fight the Magad dynasty and Dhanananda. Whilst Dhanananda is not a very powerful ruler generally, he still had a very big standing army, close to 3,000 to 4,000 elephants, known close to 1 lakh army he had. And now Alexander personally chooses to cross the Beas river. However, Alexander's army, when it was asked to cross the Beas river, it will mutiny. Alexander's army mutinies. Mutiny means that they rebelled. They said, it took us 2 to 3 months to fight a small ruler like Porus. We know that Dhanananda is a very big ruler, and therefore we are homesick. We have been fighting for 5 years straight. We do not want to basically, in a way, cross this river to now go into a conflict with Dhanananda. And fatefully, fortunately, Alexander never crossed the Indus River Beas tributary. If he would have crossed, we don't know what would have been our culture, our language, or what we would have been. Maybe Dhanananda would have dominated, maybe Alexander would have dominated. But the simple point is, Alexander chose to go back. Alexander chose to go back because his army was not ready to fight. This is considered one of the most important moments in ancient India, because Alexander going back meant that Dhanananda was not touched. Till this point, are you with me that Alexander wants to cross? Army says no, he goes back, stiff resistance from Porus. Okay, very good. Now, whilst going back, you have Dhanananda here, and whilst going back to Macedonia, where he will actually never reach, Alexander going back, he appoints a person as the governor of this sector. The governor appointed by Alexander was a person called Seleucus Nicator I. Seleucus Nicator I. He was the governor appointed by Alexander to govern over this area. Govern this area under his name. Your Dhanananda. Now, it is believed that at the same time, two things will happen. Alexander will die because of a very common disease today, which is cholera, and Seleucus Nicator I will usurp the power of this sector and establish his own rule. And what will happen is the Seleucid Empire will be established with Seleucus Nicator I as the ruler, and at the same point of time, very, very dramatically, Chandragupta Maurya, with the help of Kautilya, will murder Dhanananda to establish Mauryan dynasty. But the problem here is very simple, that now they are at odds with each other. It is Seleucus Nicator I versus Chandragupta Maurya. Now, point is that both are fighting for this Indus sector. But both realize one thing, which is that the Mauryas could expand into India further, and Seleucus Nicator could go towards Macedonia. And therefore, when Seleucus Nicator I realized that Mauryas, or basically Chandragupta Maurya, is very powerful, he will go into a matrimonial alliance, and Helena, which was the daughter of, or who was the daughter of Seleucus Nicator I, was married to Chandragupta Maurya. And all of this sector was given to the Mauryas itself. And this is basically the story of the establishment of the Mauryan Empire, along with having a very friendly neighbor in the form of the Seleucid Empire, which is why we have Greek sources of the Mauryan period. And also it is the reason why Mauryas were very, very powerful, because their northwestern sector was very stable. So what I've told you in the past 10 to 15 minutes is basically Alexander's invasion, failed to enter India, rise of Seleucus Nicator I, and rise of Chandragupta Maurya. Helena is the daughter of Seleucus Nicator I. Are we clear with regards to this? Because if we are, I will then give you a flowchart to remember this and also read it out of the PPT. Yes? Okay, let's read it out of the PPT and then I'll give you a flowchart for this. See, Alexander III was the son of Philip, ruler of Macedonia. He succeeded his father at the throne at Macedonia in 336. The Greeks and the Persians fought for supremacy since 5th century BC itself, and Persia had invaded Greece. The rivalry between Alexander became very continued and became very big during Alexander's time. Alexander defeated Darius III in 334 BCE at the Battle of Issus, and then he conquered Syria, thereafter Gaza Strip, Egypt, Babylonia, Susa, and Persepolis, taking the whole power away from this sector itself. Thereafter, by 327, Alexander had already established himself as the ruler and the master of Greece and Persia, and now he was moving towards northwestern India, where there were independent kingdoms and oligarchies. Among the two most important rulers, you have Ambhi, the ruler of Takshila, and Porus, or the ruler of the area between Chenab and Jhelum. On the other hand, Why the two rulers did not join hands? The point is that very simply Alexander conquered the smaller republics of this sector. He was stuck somewhere here at the Hedipus river itself. Porus gave strong resistance. Before meeting Porus, Alexander marched towards Takshila. Ambi readily accepted Alexander's lordship, and Alexander recruited soldiers at Takshila and collected tribute from this sector. He then invaded Porus. Porus offers strong resistance to Alexander, but he was defeated. But Alexander was impressed by the bravery of Porus generally. He made friendship with Porus in his unknown country. We don't know where it was. Porus was restored to his kingdom. Alexander marched through the streams of the Indus as far as into the delta. So he went like this also, then came back. He then stopped when his army mutinied and was not ready to cross the Bias River to enter India generally. This is the story of Alexander's invasion and not crossing India. After Alexander's invasion of the northwestern sector, his general Seleucus Nicator I founded the Seleucid Empire. In the Seleucid Empire had a natural conflict for this sector with the Mauryan Empire, and the Seleucid Empire ruled from 312 to 63 BCE, and Seleucus Nicator I very simply married his daughter off to Chandragupta Maurya to very simply remove the conflict and give it to the Mauryans so that he could go further this way and Mauryans could go towards the east. So, just to give you a summary of this in a very simple way, I'm going to write it down, and that after that we take a break. Very simply, simple, straightforward. See, please pay attention. Alexander usurps power of Achaemenid dynasty, reaches the Indus River. Ambhi gives up, but Porus fights and gives strong resistance. Alexander plans to cross river Indus to face Dhanananda. Army mutinies, goes back and appoints Seleucus Nicator I as governor. Alexander dies. Seleucus establishes Seleucid dynasty. Dhanananda killed by Chandragupta Maurya. Helena married to Chandragupta to end conflict, and both have stable, friendly borders. Does this make sense? Everyone, come on. Yes? Now it doesn't seem difficult. This whole story summarized in one slide. This is clear? Okay. So now, when I come back, there are three things. Mauryan period, there are multiple sources. You need to know the sources. The painful part is that you have to learn them. Then we'll talk about basic political history. And then we'll talk about Ashoka and his transformation. Acceptable? Everyone's with me till this point? No issues, right? Okay. So it is 7:07. Rather, let's take it as 7:08. I'll be back at 7:18. Last 40 minutes, we'll discuss the smaller things. Acceptable? Okay, great. So I'll see you at 7:18. Welcome back. Okay. Anybody has a doubt or wants to call, you can do that right now before I start the Mauryas properly. Waiting for people to come back. Yes. Okay. You can't call that. Vivek, you can't use that term in this context. Okay, as you know, live call feature is on. If you want to call, ask something meta, something bigger related to the topic, something we've done previously, you can do that. The window is open for the next 1 minute. Okay. Yes, that you can say, Vivek. I'll wait for 1 more minute. I can see the number. Hardeep, that could have been the case, but basically, Dhanananda's army was very big. So maybe it can't be that they had no idea of an elephant. But basic point is that uh, it's a very big standing army based on elephants. That in itself is a problematic aspect. Abhijit will talk about that. He did. See, he never said that he's not going to fight after Kalinga. His understanding was just war and unjust war. We'll discuss that concept. We'll discuss that concept. If not today, tomorrow for sure, which is the concept of Ashoka. Actually, his concept of Buddhism was not Buddhism. It was an interpretation of Buddhism. What was relevant to him, it's a consolidation tool. We'll talk about that. Is something we have to have as a discussion. Yes. Anyone else generally, as we wait for people to join in? Hardeep, the problem with that argument is that we don't know about these things. Never documented. It would be hearsay, random, as it is. Okay. So we discussed this process, which is how very simply Alexander came and went back, and how Seleucus Nicator I was very simply able to establish the empire in the same erstwhile area. Now we've discussed this through the PPT also, and I want to show you one map before we go into this. See, when we started our discussion, when we started our discussion, Magad used to be just this much. By the time we come to the period of Dhanananda, this is the area which Dhanananda managed. Thereafter, when we talk about Chandragupta Maurya, he was able to expand this empire to one of the most stable North Indian sector. This was Chandragupta Maurya. And when his grandson is going to come to power, which is Ashoka, the empire is going to be at a new height altogether, encompassing most of the Indian subcontinent, along with the parts of Central Asia and the whole of the Indian subcontinent in a way. This is what Ashoka controlled. Now, there's a reason why Mauryas are considered very, very important, because the Mauryans were the first in the empire, in generally in ancient India. In ancient India, Mauryas have the distinction of controlling most of the Indian subcontinent. But there is one more distinction which the Mauryans have, which is a very important concept, Indian subcontinent, which is that only they were the only centralized empire in the history of ancient India. Fully centralized. I'll discuss this concept with you, what I mean by centralization and decentralization. But what we need to do is that we know about the Mauryans out of very many sources. Sources in the sense that who talk about Mauryas. And Mauryas, very simply, the sources are in different languages also. Greek, because of the Seleucid connection. We have Sanskrit, Pali, Prakrit, and more than that, we even have Tibetan sources, we have Sri Lankan sources, or what we call as Ceylonese sources, wherein because there is a power which the Mauryans actually had, and Ashoka's influence and idea of Dhamma, it is one of the most well documented empires generally. Over and above that, one thing is even more important, that we have one of the most important treatises or the text which talks about administration, which is Artha Shastra, written by Kautilya. You want to call him any other name, Vishnugupta, whatever you want to call it. Kautilya wrote the Arthashastra, which is the first text on political science and governance. And therefore, it tells us a lot about the administration. And because of that, we have a lot of administrative terms which you need to learn. This is because of the fact that Arthashastra gives us a whole plethora of terms which you have to know, and which you have to know generally for the examination. So this is the reason why this period has a most amount of texts in that sense to be learned. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the names which you have to remember, irrespective of anything, because they will be important for your preparation. So the first is the indigenous sources, the sources which come from within India itself, which talk about Ashoka and his empire or the Mauryans. Now, one thing is that my role here is to just tell you. I will give you the way to learn it also, which is the way to make acronyms. Other than that, you have to learn it irrespective of anything. It is Mauryas and thereafter only the Guptas where there are terminologies which need to be learned. So one is Arthashastra, everybody knows it. R. Shama Shastri was the one who found it in Mysore. The first copy was discovered there. Kautilya, also called the Indian Machiavelli, or you want to call Machiavelli the Greek Kautilya. The simple point is Mauryan administration is very well defined and told to us through this text. But this text is so common that UPSC will never ask for it. The more interesting is that these are texts which were written close to 200 to 300 years later. If a text is written 200 to 300 years later, and still, in some cases, 900 years, if still is mentioning the Mauryas, which existed between 324 or 321 BCE and till 184 BCE, this is the period of the Mauryans. What does it show us? What does it show us? Chanakya Niti is nothing but Arthashastra. What does it show us? A text which talks about the Mauryans written 500 years, 600 years later. Influence, sure. Impact, yes. Power, glory, legacy is very, very important. Something which was done 600 years back in a text which is ancient is even more interesting. So therefore, references to Mauryans are found across the different periods, and that is a very big distinction in itself. So the first such text is which was actually written in the Gupta period is called the Mudraksha by Vishaka Datta. This came in the examination because Vishaka Datta is a very important, very, very important writer. Devi Chandraguptam and Mudraksha. This came in the examination. I'll show it to you. This came in the examination in the context of very simply a question which was based on text. So Mudraksha came. You remember it like this: mud visa, visa, mud. This is the way you learn it. Again, MV will not make sense. What does it talk about? It talks about how Chandragupta Maurya threw the or overthrew the Nandas away. Then you have one of the most interesting texts out of the Harsha period, which is Harsh Charita by Bana. Again, it talks about the decline of Mauryas. Again, Har Ban, something like this. Thereafter, we'll do previous year questions after this discussion itself. Then you have Kalhan's Raj Tarangini, very, very important, which is Kalhan is considered the father of Indian history in a way. And this is a history of Kashmir and how Ashoka established Srinagar. Very, very important. Raj Karega Kal. So Raj Kal. And then you have the Jatakas, the Puranas, which also tell us about the rulers. And then you have the Pratishta Pravan by Hem Chandra, a Jain poet who basically tells us about the Maurya. So then Persis Hema. This is the only way you can actually learn this. Total, there would be maximum 15, 16. If you learn them in a systematic manner, you will not be able to actually find them very, very heavy. What is more important for you is the foreign sources, because they tell us that the influence of Mauryas goes beyond specifically the Greek sources. Greek sources is because of the connection which is there generally. So you have Megasthenes Indica, one of the most celebrated Greek texts which talks about how the Mauryan administration used to work, what was the Mauryan society in that sense. So we know Megasthenes. Megasthenes. Thereafter comes a person called Strabo. Strabo tells us about the marriage between Helena and Chandragupta. So Strabo, this is very, very important for you. This is chronological order. This can be in the examination sometimes. Then you have Justine, who talks about the fact that how Alexander appointed Seleucus Nicator I. So you have Justine. Then you have Arian. You have to remember these names. You have to remember these names. The name of the book is secondary. First, remembering the author is important. There, the name of the book and the author both are important. So, because they have similar names, Indica, geography is used 2-3 times. Arian talks about the army which the Nandas had, a little bit of exaggerated numbers. And thereafter, last is Pliny. Pliny, who wrote again natural history, talks about the Mauryan power. So you have M. S. Strabo, Justin, Arrian, Pliny. M. S. Jap, which is clear because here there's no repetition, but these are the Greek sources or Greek authors you have to remember generally. Thereafter, Chinese account. There are 3 Chinese travelers which came into India, and their basic acronym is FHI. Fahian is the first one who referred to Mauryas. Then Hyun Sang, and the last one is Ich Sing. Please remember this. This is a standard thing which you can use for your examination. FHI, FHI, FHI. First one to come was Fahian. Then it was Hyun Sang. Then it was Ich Sing. FHI is a standard thing, can help you in the examination generally. Languages, obviously, you know that it is Greek. This is Chinese. So, see, you will not get a direct question from this area. What you will get is mostly match the following. Language would be the last thing which they will ask you. Rather, they'll ask you the chronological order or the name of the book itself. Then comes Mahavamsa, Deepavamsa, Kulavamsa, and the way Celanese sources talk about Ashoka. So here you only have to remember Vaha, Deepa, Kula. Vamsa is common to all of them. And last but not the least is a text which comes from Tibet, which is Divyadana. So if you look at it, there are basically 10 basic names which you have to remember before I go into the rulers. Very simply, first is Mudraksha Vishakadatta. Then you have Harshcharita by Bana. Thereafter, we will have the Prasishta Pravan by Hemchandra. Then MS Jap, which is Megasthenes Strabo, Justin Arayan Pliny. Then Mahavamsa, Deepavamsa, Kulavamsa, and Divyadana. That is it. Once you revise, it should be in your basic understanding, and the more you will revise it, the better you will remember it. So I hope that this area should not intimidate you. This is 10 to 15% of the syllabus. Everything else is more logical and straightforward as we've been doing. So I hope that this is acceptable. I can't help you here other than telling you how to learn it. So can I move on and rather give you the list of the different what we call as rulers. Okay, now here again, first ruler is very important, Chandragupta Maurya. Thereafter, Bindusara, second ruler, father of Ashoka. Third, Ashoka. Maximum, remember Dashrath. Thereafter, for me, these are useless. And then the fifth ruler, which is important for me, is Brihadrath. Very simply, Chandragupta and Bindusara had very good relationships with the Greeks. That is why they're mentioned quite a lot. Ashoka and Dashrath are two names which I'm asking you to remember because it will help you in art and culture. And Brihadrath because he's the last ruler. Generally, you have to remember. So again, five names: Chandragupta, Bindusara, Ashoka. Everybody knows this. Dashrath and Brihadrath are the two which you only have to add to your understanding, which is Dashrath and Brihadrath. Brihadrath, last one. Dashrath is the one who actually built with Ashoka Ajivik caves in the Barabara Nagarjuni hill complex, which we will discuss in art and culture generally. So here are the rulers which you have to remember: C, B, A, D, B. The problem is that this B is Brihadrath, so we will make it BR. So C, B, A, D, BR, Brihadrath. So I hope again there should be no problem here. I'm not asking you to learn their time periods, but generally you should know the sequence. Sequence is always important. That is more important than anything else for us generally. Okay, now let's add a little bit of political history for each one of them. When we talk about Chandragupta, what can be asked about him is I don't have to do a thesis. I don't really care about his smaller politics. I don't have to go into the nitty gritty of what he was doing. In the examination, they can basically ask you three things. Who is Sandroclotus and Androclotus in Greek sources? This is basically the name of Chandragupta in Greek sources. Further, they can ask you that who was the one who constructed the Sudarshan Lake? Sudarshan Lake is a very important lake which has a historical continuity because somehow this lake has been built multiple times. But the one who actually constructed Sudarshan Lake is Chandragupta Maurya. Establisher, Androclotus is the name which is there, had a very good relationship with Seleucus Nicator I as it is, and is the constructor of Sudarshan Lake. 4 points. Can you remember? Come on. 4, 4, 4. Okay. Then comes Bindusara. We all also know that Chandragupta Maurya turned to Jainism, converted to Jainism. Okay. Now comes Bindusara. Lesser known because basically he was an Ajivik, so the Buddhist sources don't talk about him too much. His name in Greek sources is Amitroshets. He had taken a title which is Amitroghata, which is I destroy all my enemies. So the Greek name is Amitroshets. There, the last fourth point was Sudarshan Lake. Sudarshan Lake, very simply, is a lake which was constructed during the Chandraguptan period. And as I will tell you when I'll discuss tomorrow post-Gupta, it was reconstructed multiple times. It has a history. We will discuss that. Okay. Now, Amitroshets is the Greek name of Bindusara. This is where UPSC will try to play a game with you. They can ask you Amitroshets, Sandroclotus, and be the Androclotus. Who is whom is where they will play. Sandroclotus, Androclotus, and Amitroshets. This is the only thing you need to remember. Other than that, he again had a good relationship with the Greeks. The person Antiochus, who's the successor of Seleucus Nicator I, sent an ambassador to him. The ambassador is Demicus. Thereafter, he also had a good relationship Ptolemy to Philadelphus. He was the leader or the ruler of Egypt, and Anitoshet, the what you call Antiochus and Bindusara had a good relationship. Obviously, Helena, mother influence. Generally, he's an Ajivik. And before I go to Ashoka, let me basically put in what you have to remember generally for the examination. So for Chandragupta Maurya, no unnecessary information I will tell you other than what you need to know. Bindusara. Okay. Here, Sandracotus. Amitroshets. Sudarshan Lake. And can you remember this much? Can you remember this much? Yes, perfect. If you can remember this much, then our work is done. Very simply, here, Andrococos, Sudarshan Lake, Amitroshets, Demicus sent by Antiochus, and the Ajivik connection. We can add here also Jain and Ajivik. Okay. Now, after this point, I'll take up the previous year questions because we've done that much to cover certain points and certain questions. Now comes Ashoka, most celebrated of all Mauryan rulers. During his father's reign, Bindusara's reign, he had already been a governor of Ujjain or Ujjaini and Takshila. So he had a lot of understanding. We all know about Ashoka through the concept of war, and specifically the concept of Kalinga War, which is seen as a turning point in Ashoka's history and Ashoka's life. Now, I'll leave it to this that in his 8th regnal means rule year, he fought the what we call as Kalinga War, and the death and destruction of the Kalinga War changed his heart. Now, this point I will discuss with you tomorrow, that what does this change of heart mean, what it is, and was it really something like that or something more or less generally. One second, I've gone out of focus. Yes, more or less how it was. So Ashokan Dhamma and all I will discuss with you tomorrow. So what is the agenda for tomorrow? Please understand. I'll discuss Ashoka, administration, Dhamma, post Maurya, Gupta, and we will most probably come till 750 C. Most probably we'll reach ancient and more or less cover everything what we need to cover for ancient. And next week, Saturday, I'll start early medieval dynasties, which is basically two parts, the 7th module from here and the first module of medieval India. And we will start or enter medieval by next week. So tomorrow's understanding, before Kalinga, he was an Ajivik. That is the basic point. Saurabh, we'll discuss this point tomorrow. It will make more sense if I actually go in a certain way. Sushmita, that is converted or that is automatically generated. Nobody has control over the time of that. Okay. Can I now take previous year questions? If everybody is comfortable with whatever we've done today generally. Yes? Okay. Perfect. Now, first things first, very simply. 2023 paper I will do with you once I've covered ancient and medieval both. 2022 paper is an anomaly. I've said that on different platforms from time to time. Please never judge the 2022 paper as the level of history questions. 2023 showed us that 2022 was an anomaly. So we will not in a way judge our preparation from 2022. I will be doing different thematic questions from different time periods from 20. See, and the last point I want to make before previous year, please don't do questions between 1992 and 2013 because this period UPSC was a different species itself, totally different body, different type of questions were asked. Only after 23 when the pattern changed, the nature of questions changed. So don't waste your time here, rather last 10 years is what is actually relevant to us. Okay, so with this let's go to the questions. Okay, polling feature I will use, everybody is going to answer and we'll end the class with this only. Which of the following statements are applicable to Jain doctrine? The surest way of annihilating karma is to practice penance. Every object, even the smallest particle, has a soul. Karma is the bane of the soul and must be ended. Which of the following statements are correct? Okay, read it. I'm giving you a minute, understand it, and then answer. It should be in front of you right now. Shiva, I don't think so. I've not been told. The batch thereafter should be me. I think Modern India morning batch, which is going to be taught from Monday, is not me. I think it's Rohit sir. Thereafter, it's me. Okay, very good. Very, very, very good. 62% of you D, 19% and 16% 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, 3% 1 only. Okay. So let's deal with these 16% and 19%. What was the issue? Firstly, very good. All the statements are correct. Let's try to decode each one of them. See, first and foremost, every object, even the smallest particle, has a soul. This is a very standard statement from Jain philosophy. We already know it. This has to be correct. So the options without it automatically get eliminated. So the people who answered A or C, the point is 2 has to be there because it's a standard statement. Now you are up with a conundrum that if 2 and 3 are correct, we only have to decide if 1 is correct or not. Every object has a soul. Karma is the bane of the soul, must be ended. We know that karma is considered sin and should be ended. Now, one says the way of annihilating karma is the practice of penance. Here, this means is the destruction of karma is through self-purification. So, if third statement is correct, one has to be correct. All statements are correct. One thing, please understand, this question is not of history. This question is of English literature. Because you need not actually just look at the statements. The statements are written in unnecessarily difficult language. If not, if I had said the surest way of destruction of karma is self-purification, everybody would have got it right. But simple point is 62% of you totally right understanding. Great. Anybody has any issue here? How did I come to that conclusion? How did not come to that conclusion? No, sir. Okay. Now, Which of the following characteristics, which of the following characteristics or characterizes, or which of the following characterizes or characterize the people of Indus Valley civilization? They possess great palaces and temples. They worshipped both male and female deities. They worshipped horse-drawn chariots in warfare. Which of the statements are correct? Come on. Yes, yes, Shushmita. Yes, yes. But sir has changed the pattern. See, Pratik, I can't go 2013 and change the question, right? When you say previous year questions, I have to take it from 2013. I know one pair, two pair, three pair pattern has changed the way we look at questions. If UPSC plays with students quite a lot, maybe they'll be back. But the point is, this question has to be answered this way only. So UPSC has this habit of troubling candidates. We can't help that. So that is why discussing each and every statement with you, that even though if you did not have elimination, you would have got the answer. 59% of you are totally correct. Very good numbers are coming through. I've taught other batches also, but that was very good. 8%, 9%, C, 1, 2, and 3, 14%. I'm more concerned about the 19%, which is 1, 2, and 3. Indus Valley people, did they have temples? Temples, yes, no? No. Did the evidences which came from the Indus Valley civilization indicate towards any form of warfare? Did they have male and female deities? Yes, Mother Goddess and Pashupati. Sir, granaries cannot be constructed as palaces. Hardeep, even if that part is correct, this part is incorrect. The statement is still correct. Statement is still incorrect. Doesn't matter if the first part is correct or not. Maybe they had palaces, but the second part basically is that first time Aryan started warfare. Yes, in a way. Pashupati seal, Mother Goddess. Again, you tell me this: is this a factual question or is it a conceptual question? As early as 2013, what type of question are they asking you? Conceptual. This is the point. They will always ask you application of knowledge. Very rarely, or at least 10 to 15% of the times, you will get factual questions. This is the one which mostly basically plays with the students. Okay. Which one of the following describes best the concept of nirvana in Buddhism? The extinction of the flame of desire, the complete annihilation of self, the state of bliss and rest, and a mental stage beyond all comprehension. There's an application of an understanding. You have to see if you're able to answer it or not. Read the word, it is nirvana, and you have to tell what does it describe, what does it talk about. Yes, mostly it is this only. 39, 35. See, tell me one thing. The people who have answered B, annihilation of self means destruction of self. Nirvana means moksha. How do you get moksha? How do you get moksha? When your desires are gone. I told you a point. Nibbana is a precondition for nirvana. complete extinction of the flame of desire. Only when your desire will go away, then only you will get moksha, which is nirvana. This is the literal definition of nibbana. This is a random statement, opposite of something like that, and this is again a random statement. Try to understand this. Nirvana means moksha or salvation. There's an implied concept here. They have actually used nibbana in a very good way. Nibbana means the extinction of flame of desire. Only when desire goes away, then you get moksha. Therefore, nirvana comes through when the distinction, where the desire flame is gone. If it has said the what is the best concept of nibbana, then the second statement would have been correct, wherein it is technically talking about the physical form of extinction or the self annihilation of self, which is self destruction. Still, it would not be correct because of the fact that does nibbana mean that you destroy yourself? No, you die, it is nibbana. So the second statement has been pushed in to basically confuse you. Again, this is not yes, nibbana is a destruction of desire, but is also the act of dying. But here the implied concept is nirvana cannot come without nibbana, and therefore A has to be there before B. So this is again an concept of how you are there playing with words. Here this is called word play. They are playing with words. They are very, in a way, logically applying the concept itself. This is why UPSC sometimes becomes extremely conceptual. If you mark B, then you are talking about death. If you mark A, then you are talking about death but with salvation, because desire is gone, then only nirvana comes. So this is a difficult question. This is actually a difficult question because it needs an application of a logic. Are you getting my point? That is why I told you these terms they tend to play with. Are the 35% satisfied by the way I've argued why it should be A? Satisfied? Great. Because on different places in different platforms you'll find different explanations. But the basic point is it's an implied concept in that regard. Okay. Yeah. Which of the following kingdoms were associated with the life of Buddha? Avanti, Gandhara, Kosala, and Magad. Given below. You have to decide. Again, if you remember that map, you will be able to answer this question. No, Shushmita, that is not true. I'll show you factual questions also. See, try to understand this. UPSC will have 1%. If there are 10 questions, 2 to 3 will be factual. But what students do is that they chase the factual. Conceptual questions are always there. Standard. I'll show it to you in the 2023 paper also. As we go on, it will make more sense to you. See, if you understand ancient medieval, it helps you in art and culture. That is the reward of understanding ancient medieval, other than getting 5 to 6 questions correct in the examination. Because art and culture is mains oriented, and that is why you need to understand these things. Okay, very good. 43%, 3 and 4. 32% again. I knew 1, 3 and 4. See, if you remember the map of the Mahajanpadas, I think I have it with me also. I showed you something. See, Kamboja and Gandhara automatically get eliminated. Magad had to be there. Why are you marking Avanti? I said that Buddha was in the core Gangetic sector. Then why are you answering Avanti? Because that is what you've done. You have answered along with the question. 1 second. The Avanti. See, Kosala and Gandhara had to be there. Kosala and Magad had to be there. Gandhara automatically gets eliminated. So you were only left with these two options. You had to decide about Avanti. I told you westernmost and also the southernmost. And the core area of Buddha was the alluvial plains. So again, this is called application of knowledge. This is called historical geography question. Hardeep, understand this. Nibbana is the extinction of the flame of desire plus the act of death. Nirvana is the concept of getting moksha. Moksha cannot happen without Nibbana happening first. And therefore, Nibbana, the extension, first is the extinction of flame of desire, then it is death, and then it is Nirvana. Nibbana leads to Nirvana. That is the only point. Okay. This you cannot answer. Achha, I'll give you this last question. This is called a factual question. Which one of the following is not a Harappan site? Chanudaro, Kotadizi, Shogora, and Disalpur. This is actually a proper factual question. Sushmita, you don't know it, but I just want to take you this type of question. In ancient, most of the questions are undoable. No, that is not true, Pratik. The 2023, 2021, 2020, at least out of the 16 questions, 9 to 10, 11 were very easy to be answered. Again, this can be done through the map. Very good, 63%. Chanudaro, everybody knows, is a site. Kotadizi, everybody knows. It was between Shogora and Desalpur. Desalpur I showed you on the map also, but Shoguro is actually, and I will discuss, this is a Mauryan site. Here we find an inscription, which I will discuss with you. But I hope with this you get an idea what type of questions are coming in the examination. Upinder Singh map, if you remember. So we'll discuss the other questions tomorrow also. We'll keep it a mix. With this, I would like to end the session for today. I will see you tomorrow 10 a.m. Remember, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. we go and we will discuss ancient and finish ancient to some degree. So thank you. Take care. No need for a leaderboard. If you want, no need for a leaderboard. Let's not bring it here. Simple point is, I will see you tomorrow 10 to 8. I hope you are now clear about what we are doing. I hope ancient and medieval is now making sense to you, and you can see everything is conceptual, how the questions are also answered through conceptual understanding, and we are more or less done with the difficult part. We are going into the other easier part. We'll discuss centralization, decentralization, much very, very interesting phase of history coming through. So see you, take care, and very simply, having history as optional gives you greater advantage. Sure, Shiva, if having PSIR, history, or geography as your optional always helps you in GS. So why not? Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.